Good evening, YouTubers. Welcome back into another edition of Astros Recap, off-season report, that is. It's your man here, David Artis, here to sort of give you an update on all things Astros off-season. It is exactly 11:01 p.m., January 30th, so it's been about 3 full months now since I've talked to you last. Obviously, Dodgers won the World Series. Talked about the Astros losing a heartbreaking defeat in Game 7 to the Rays. But all in all, I think about last year, the whole 60-game coronavirus-infested season. It was just, the whole thing was sort of not, out of all sports that I watch, when it comes to, it's obviously baseball, football, and basketball. Baseball by far was the most strange, just because of the length of the season, basically playing a third of games. Your regular 162, only playing 60 just felt weird. But obviously, the virus hit mid-March. They were in the middle of spring training. Had to shut that down. And then, obviously, the virus is still going on. We got vaccines out. They're being rolled out slowly but surely. But people are still getting it. It's just as much a problem as it was when it first broke. And I think March 11th, I want to say. So it's still here, but at least sports is back, and they're allowing fans here and there at some games. I don't want to get too far into that. I want to reel things back in here, but one thing I do want to point out, on my last podcast, which was 3 months ago, there was a staticky sound in the background for the first 5 minutes of that, so I do want to apologize. And if you're hearing that right now, or at any point during this podcast, I also want to apologize, because it's just, yeah, it's one of those things that I can't control. Even when I play it back before I want to post it on YouTube, I don't necessarily hear any of the background noise. So, but anyway, so I don't even know if my... All right, we'll see if things get better here. But anyway, few things. So obviously, when the season ended, there was a whole lot of nothing for a while. There was no talk of anything, which is usually the case, I guess, in most seasons. There's usually not much going on until maybe the winter meetings in December, which I don't even think took place this year. Usually there's a few trades or signings that go down during those winter meetings, but I usually don't keep up with baseball during the off season like, I'm interested in football and basketball, and I'm watching those sports, so usually baseball takes a back seat. So obviously I know when free agent signings are made, I get updates, trades, things like that. Sometimes it's hard to remember all of it, so I do have my phone over here, which I will look at in a minute to sort of, I have every sort of transaction that's been made since the off-season started. And I'll look at some of them, maybe not all of them. Depends on the time and where we're at here. But yeah, from the Astros standpoint, obviously, going into the offseason, I did touch on a few things in the last podcast as you're sort of going out, and obviously talked about the outfield being a big issue, with Springer going, Michael Brantley most likely going at that point, of course. Now we can say, Michael Brantley did sign back here, which was nice. After Springer got not dealt, he was a free agent, so the Blue Jays gave him 6 years, $150 million, I believe. And it looked like Brantley was right behind him on the way out to Toronto with his best friend, George Springer. But the Astros were able to sort of step in and say, we'll give you 2 years and $32 million. And thankfully, Brantley's back here in Houston for 2 more years, which I think is huge for a number of different reasons. One being, sort of, you think about, people like Altuve and Bregman and Springer and who else am I forgetting? Who's the other 4? Altuve, Bregman, Springer, and Correa. Brantley sort of, slides in, sort of under the radar type guy, but he was huge for the team these 2 years, and they put him right in the middle of the lineup. He was batting cleanup for the majority of that, so I think Brantley's a huge signing, especially when it comes to the outfield. And the free agent market is not huge on outfielders. One of them just got signed, which was Jock Peterson, who's a guy, obviously, we don't like from the World Series. Sort of his antics, but I think out of all free agent outfielders, I would have taken him over Mookie Betts, who I think is still out on the free agent market, but also Eddie Rosario was another guy I had interest in who also got signed, I think, yesterday. So Peterson and Rosario are gone. I'm not a big fan of Jackie Bradley Jr., who's like the last guy of relevance, I believe, in the free agent sort of class or the pool, whatever you want to call it, right now. So I don't know, but Brantley is better than any of those guys that you could have possibly come up with in terms of that. So getting him back 2 years, even if they overpaid, they had to do it. They needed an outfielder, and Brantley's as solid as it comes when it comes to his hitting. I mean, he can hit for power, hit for average. You can talk about the outfield; it's probably average to below average. But he was playing left field at Minute Maid Park for half the games this year. That's usually not that tough a place to play with the Crawford boxes and it being pretty short. It's really not that. It hasn't been like I haven't blamed Brantley for any issues in the outfield in previous 2 years, so I don't see why I'd start now. He's been fine. And if you know me, I take more account into your hitting than I will your defense. If you make routine plays, and you hit 280, 300, and you do your job at the plate, I'm going to be fine with that. Obviously, like that's the point I've made with Correa in the past. And Correa, a lot of it, he's been injured, obviously, but I talk to people, and they love his defense, which is great. Obviously, it's a plus. It's sort of a luxury more than like you can take runs away, obviously, with how well he plays shortstop. But if he could just hit 280, 300, and play good enough defense, then I'd be fine with that. But Correa, if he stays healthy, he's the next guy they really need to lock up. When I look at the team, you got Brantley, of course, for 2 more years here. You got Kyle Tucker, who's still sort of on his rookie deal. We'll see. I think he showed some things last year. He had a very good month or so, but I think he showed us that he's here and he's here to stay. We'll see how good he actually is. We'll have high hopes for him, of course, but Correa, obviously, Bregman and Altuve have been locked up, so I think Correa is the next guy, and I think we were holding off. It was kind of back and forth between Springer and Correa. Now that Springer's gone, I think you have to sign Correa to a max, big multi-year deal along the lines of what Bregman and Altuve got. So I think that's where you're at there. But the other signing was Jason Castro, a longtime Houston Astro. Of course, spent a year with the it was 1 or 2 years with the Twins. I think it was on the Angels as well. Obviously, he's not your starting catcher. Your starting catcher is Martin Maldonado, no doubt about it. That dude, what he does defensively as a catcher and how he works with our pitchers, I think, is some things that just can't be measured with how well he actually works with our team. So, and any hitting you get, I think, is just a bonus. So, and if if you've listened to previous podcasts, I've raved about Martin Maldonado. I know a lot of Astros were Chirinos, or a lot of people loved Robinson Chirinos the 1 year he was here. I didn't hate the guy. He's a very nice guy. I just don't think he offers a whole lot. And Martin Maldonado, I think, is better defensively and same sort of at bat. Obviously, catchers, it's hard to find those that are good hitters. JT Real Mutos is probably the only guy in Philly that actually you rely on with the bat. But Martin Maldonado is going to be our guy, and they signed Jason Castro to a backup role. 2 years, $7 million. So I think I was looking at his sort of batting average, and it was like 155 or 195. I don't know. It's not good. He never was a really good hitter here. He had one flash in the pan good year. It was back like in 2012, 2013, where he hit like 260, 270, had like 20 plus home runs, but he fell back down to earth the following year. So those are the only big real 2 free agent signings for the Astros. That is. Think about other big news, especially recently, of course, Jock Peterson, just the other day, yesterday I believe, signed with the Cubs. So that was the other sort of free agent outfielder that the Astros might have had interest in. Nolan Arenado from the Rockies got traded over to the Cardinals, so there's that. The Blue Jays have just been signing people left and right, so they're all in. And the Padres were doing that last year, and they sort of carried it into this year as well. They didn't make the first sort of moves in the offseason. They signed, I don't know if these were signed or trades, but they acquired Blake Snell from the Rays. Those of you that watch the World Series know how that sort of ended with him being taken out very early in Game 6 when he was basically unhittable. And Kevin Cash and his analytics really cost him because he went to the bullpen and they blew Game 6 and basically blew a chance to get to Game 7 and possibly win the World Series. So that was a big shocker there, sarcastically, of course, that he's not with the team anymore. So they get Blake Snell and also Yu Darvish, so they're shoring up, however you want to say it, their pitching staff to go with, Hosmer and Machado and Fernando Tatis and their heavy lineup of hitters that they got, and they were a good team last year. So them and the Dodgers will definitely be battling it out all of next year for the top spot in the NL West. And the Blue Jays, I think, are going to be the team, probably them and the Yankees in the AL East. Those are the two teams that have just gone all in when it comes to trades, things like that. The Mets obviously acquired Francisco Lindor, and they also, I don't know, I think they were close to some other moves, but I think they're going to try to be a team in the NL East, of course. So the NL East last year, who won that division? The Braves won that division, right? The Braves have won that division, I believe, the last few years. Obviously, the Nationals won the World Series in 2017, so as a wild card team. But when it comes to the East, I'd imagine the Braves are still going to be pretty good, but I'm not sold on the Phillies. They did sign, their catcher, JT Realmuto, of course, to a big deal. One of the largest, or if not the largest, deal by any catcher, I think, in MLB history. So that's interesting. He is worth it, though. Like I just mentioned, he can hit and play defense. So if there's one catcher that deserves, he's the best catcher in Major League Baseball right now. I don't think a lot of people would dispute that. But so that's what you got there. Trying to think. I'll go into my phone here, but I just want to go off what I know in my head. The Blue Jays, Marcus Semien, I believe, also went to the Blue Jays. So, let's not forget Marcus Semien came third. He was in the class of basically MVP. Was it 2-3 years ago? I don't know exactly the year, but Marcus Semien can hit. And if he shores up his defense, whether he's playing at shortstop or second base, he's definitely a threat, to say the least. Marcus Semien there. So, the Astros, but before I go into this, the Astros obviously need another outfielder. One move I did forget to mention, Pedro Baez. They added him in the bullpen. He's been a long-time Dodger. I don't know his exact numbers, but if he's a guy that can fill in, sort of middling relief, maybe early setup type guy, I would be okay with that. They should get Joe Smith back, who was a guy who opted out last year. He had some big outings in the playoffs back in 2019. So we'll see sort of where he fits in. You lost Devo. I don't know where he went, but obviously Devo was hurting the team more than helping it. So it's kind of good to see him gone. Of course, Joe Biagini was just a complete and total failure as an Astro. Think about other guys. Presley was your closer, which he did an okay job. Not spectacular, but also wasn't terrible. If I'm the Astros and I look at this, I actually slide Ryan Presley back into sort of your eighth inning role, and I elevate Anoli Paredes into your closer role. That's the way I'd look at it. The Astros are still looking for a closer, but I don't think that's a priority. I think the bullpen, if you add another guy, I think that'd be okay. Whether it's a lefty, I mean, I don't know exactly what you're looking at. A friend of mine at work a few weeks ago actually mentioned Ken Giles being a free agent. I actually wouldn't be opposed to it. I know you can call me stupid and, how bad things ended, but I would bring Ken Giles back over if you could get him recent, I would maybe try a 1-year deal with him if you can get him cheap, but I wouldn't use him as a closer, but I'd use him definitely, even if you wanted to use him, obviously, those situational pitchers in the bullpen don't really work the way they used to, unless there's 2 outs in the inning, you get through the inning. But pitching to at least 3 hitters now, obviously the new rule that was put in place last year. But I could see Ken Giles being useful if you need a strikeout or if you bring him into a jam. I mean, obviously, I think that the bullpen could definitely use another piece, but again, not a priority. I think the priority is still with the outfield because you need one more guy, really to play center field. I don't think you're going to put Kyle Tucker. I guess you could put him out there. I don't think he's a center fielder. I like him out and right, but Miles Straw's not an everyday guy, and that's sort of your other option there. I know I'm forgetting somebody, but as it stands, we still need a center fielder. Infield, you're covered with Bregman, Correa. Diaz will be back, so I do like Diaz wherever he can play in the infield. Also McCullers, the whole settling arbitration issues, they weren't close with Correa. I don't think that'll be an issue. I think they'll come to an agreement with Correa, but Diaz and McCullers both got through without arbitration. I want to say got their deal signed. So yeah, I think the rotation's actually okay. You could always use a starter, but when I look at the rotation, obviously you'll have Greinke back, you'll have McCullers, you'll have drawing a blank. This is kind of tough for me because I haven't thought Astros here in a while. Who's the what's his name? But you have Greinke, you have McCullers. Obviously, Framber Valdez will be a big part. I think he actually would get the nod opening day if you're asking me. Framber Valdez, which if you had told me this a year ago, I would have said you're insane. But he pitched that well to be an opening day starter. So I would do that. Jose Urquidy was the guy I couldn't think of. He'll definitely have a spot in that rotation. I did say Lance McCullers, Zach Greinke. I'm forgetting one guy. I could sit here and think for days on who that is. I'll come up with it at some point, but I also believe Forrest Whitley at some point this season needs to make impact. It is time for Forrest Whitley to be up here and making some sort of impact. Here we go. Christian Javier, that's your other guy, who actually came third in Rookie of the Year voting. So as the rotation sets up, I would probably have Framber at 1. Maybe McCullers or Greinke at 2, 3 there, whoever you put there. And then I'd have probably Urquidy at 4, and then I'd have, after 1, which would be Framber, you can really, I think that they put, let's see here. Framber's a lefty, and he's the only lefty, I believe, in the rotation. If I think quickly, that sounds right. Sometimes you like to split them up, but I really wouldn't care who you go 2, 3, 4, 5, as long as Framber, I think, will get the nod, and we'll be expecting big things from him. So, yeah, as we're up on 19 and a half minutes here coming up, so I've already spent a lot of your time, so I won't go through my entire list here. But I didn't want to definitely talk Astros first and foremost, so... But yeah, so let's see here. If I can get through some of these names on the list here on my phone, try to do that here. I started sort of in the middle. Of course, we talked about George Springer to the Blue Jays. They got Kirby Yates, to Tyler Chatwood. So Yates, if he's a closer, can still be good. Angels get Jose Quintana, who played with the Cubs last year. Wasn't great. Angels will just be whatever. Nationals get John Lester. They also get, I believe it was the Nationals. I could be wrong. I'll go back on that. But John Lester to the Nationals. Pirates trade Joe Musgrove to the Padres. Surprise, surprise. And that was a 3-team deal because the Mets got somebody named Joey Lucchesi. I'm not saying that last name right, but yeah. So the Mets get Joey Lucchesi. The Pirates trade Musgrove to the Padres, and those are the names there in that deal. Yankees get Corey Kluber. Interesting option. Pitched 5 innings for the Rangers last year and then was out for the rest of the year. So Yankees signed back DJ LeMahieu, 6 years, $90 million. Obviously, he's a big part of that team. Talked about the Astros signing Baez, 2 years, $12.5 million. 14 years. Dodgers. Yeah, so I'm reading a little bit about him, but a 3.03 ERA since his first full season of 2015. So that seems pretty solid to me. We'll see. White Sox, Liam Hendricks. That's a closer I would have definitely been on board getting from the A's. But yeah, 3 years, $54 million for a closer. White Sox, watch out for them. They're also a very good team. They might be the class of the AL Central over the Twins, I would say, at this point. They were good last year. Nationals get Kyle Schwarber. Didn't know that. So Schwarber goes to the Nats. Looks like they're making some moves, so they'll be a factor. I talked about Lindor going. It was actually Lindor and Carlos Carrasco into the Mets for Ahmed Rosario and Andres Jimenez. And some minor leaguers involved with the Indians. Sort of. We'll see what they do with Jose Ramirez, but, they might be sort of selling and starting a rebuild for them. Tigers get Robbie Grossman. That's not really newsworthy. Padres get an infielder, Seong Kim. I mean, they're just getting everybody. Padres. Name doesn't ring a bell. I guess he played in the KBO, so I'm not saying his name right either. Seong Kim. I don't know exactly how to say that, but going to the Padres infielder. 4 years, $28 million there. That was my. I don't know how well this podcast can be portrayed because my computer's going berserk right now, and it just. I apologize if anything doesn't look correct. If you're watching this on YouTube, which I don't know any other avenue you'd be watching it, but yeah. Talked about Yu Darvish going to, of course, the Padres, along with the catcher Victor Caratini. Rings a bell, that name as a catcher, but they have Derek Norris, I believe. I could be wrong. I don't know. Jose Alvarado. He goes to the Phillies. Reliever of the Tampa Bay Rays. Talked about Blake Snell and Rangers signed a pitcher. Never heard of this guy. Kohei Arihara. Okay, yeah. Can't tell you much there. Josh Bell going to the Nationals. Josh Bell, a huge, big pickup for the Nationals. So the Nationals look like they're all in to really make an impact. And then the Dodgers get Tommy Kahnle. He was a Yankees reliever, obviously. Came from the White Sox, I believe. Michael Wacha is sort of fallen off planet Earth. Signs with the Rays. I'm going to go back to the top. I'm not going to finish this. Back to the top. And a few of these I named. So, Phillies signed Didi Gregorius, who played for the Yankees for a few years. Pretty solid there. Indians, we talked about Eddie Rosario. So the Indians, that's an interesting one for me. Twins to the Indians, but I don't know. But that need a guy. It's a 1 year, $8 million deal, so it's 1 year. But sort of reading some of the numbers here, but Rosario would have been a guy I'd be interested in, and then Jock Peterson to the Cubs. We talked about that. Steven Matz goes to the Blue Jays, so they're shoring up. We talked about their rotation, adding Snell and Darvish, and now Steven Matz, if he can stay healthy and sort of resort back to the pitcher he seemed like he might have been at some point. Giants getting Tommy La Stella. He's just a pesky hitter. The Twins get Andrelton Simmons, of course. Defense, when you think of Simmons. Keep going down. Blue Jays, we talked about Marcus Semien going there. Orioles get Freddie Galvis, not worth really talking about. Phillies, we talked about JT Real Muto. So 5 years, $115.5 million. I'm trying to read. Yeah, larger. So the record for any catcher, I believe, was Brian McCann, $85 million. That was the previous record contract for a free agent catcher. So JT Realmuto, of course, now has that record at $115.5 million over 5 years. There. Indians signed Cesar Hernandez. Name definitely rings a bell. I won't get into that too much there. Yankees trade Adam Ottavino. So they lose Ottavino and Canley. Obviously, I think they still have Britton and Chapman. I mean, that's as good at 8-9 combination as you can probably get. But Ottavino goes to the Red Sox there. Nationals signed Brad Hand, another closer that could have been an option. A guy that struggled last year for the Indians, I believe. He was a free agent, but the Nationals get him to probably be a closer or a very good left-handed reliever. So either or there. Yankees get Jameson Taillon. That was a trade with the Padres. As I keep going down here. The Red Sox get Kike Hernandez and Garrett Richards from the Dodgers. They sign Kike and they sign Garrett Richards, so we'll see how that turns out there. Padres signed Jurickson Profar. Marlins, Anthony Bass, not worth mentioning. And then back to the Astros. So yeah, I went through most of them there, but there's a few others, and I'm sure there'll be some within the next coming weeks, months, whatever it may be, leading up to spring training. I'm coming up on 28.5 minutes, so this has been a pretty lengthy podcast. But I just sort of wanted to get on, apologize for the last podcast and the sort of staticky noise, the first 5 minutes of that. Do apologize. And if this one is not any better, my computer was flashing here, so I don't know how bad that might translate on YouTube. And sort of the... my voice was not sort of, as I was looking at the video, so I look right at the camera here, but as I look at the video, my voice or my words wasn't really matching up with the way they, how do I explain that? So, anyway, if anything doesn't look right on YouTube, I'll just bottom line, I apologize right now. I apologize for the last one, and anything that goes wrong here, I'll also apologize for. But I wanted to get on. I'd hate to get on in spring training and then bring all this up. And this was a good point. A lot of moves have been happening recently, so I definitely wanted to get on and sort of explain some of them to you. But I think teams, some of the best teams, obviously, I talked about the Blue Jays. I think the White Sox will be very good. And obviously the Padres will be good. The Phillies and the Nationals are a team I think will be good. the A's haven't done much, but they're always that. The division shouldn't be too tough. I think the Astros could win their division. Obviously, the A's seem like a team. It doesn't really matter what they do in the offseason. They always find a way to make things work. So I think the A's would be their competition once again. The Astros had a pretty dreadful regular season. The whole thing was a mess. And then finally got their stuff together in the postseason and knocked out the Twins and the A's. And then, of course, lost the Rays in 7 games in the League Championship Series. But we'll see what final moves will be made. I'll probably be getting back on in March, mid to late spring training, sort of setting the scene for the season. It's only two months away. I mean, it's almost February in 2 days here, and yeah. And as far as I know, World Baseball Classic unfortunately won't be played this year. That's always something I looked forward to in March, but every 4th year, of course. And this was going to be the 4th year, but that sort of got canceled, I believe. So that will not be happening. But looking forward to baseball season, obviously. My Green Bay Packers lost to the Bucks last week, so that was disappointing. So football for me is sort of over. Obviously, Super Bowls, I'll watch that, but I don't really have a huge rooting interest in that game. And then I'm just watching basketball, but I can't really get pumped up for that too much. So anyway, I'll sort of wrap things up there. Please like this video, share it with your friends. Love to hear your comments in the section below. Anything you'd like to add or correct me on, I'm always up for constructive criticism or any insight. So do that. I'll try to bring on guests again, season goes, but that's very hard to do on Sunday nights because people have to work on Monday, and it's sort of a hard thing. But I'll see what I can do. But yeah, I'll wrap things up there. We're coming up on over 32 minutes now. But I'll wrap things up there. Do all that good stuff on YouTube, and I'll talk to you in about 2 months, probably a little less, maybe a month and a half. We'll see sort of how spring training goes. The Astros made big moves. I'll be back on. But yeah, I'll wrap things up there, and we'll talk to you next time.